Experts estimate that more than R1 billion has been illegally deducted by credit providers from thousands of distressed debtors. Senior legal advisor at the Office of the Credit Ombudsman, Avitha Nofal, joins us now to talk about this. Very good evening to you, Avitha. So, just how bad is the rot in our debt collection in this country?
Look, Ted Makile, it is there. There's no two ways about it. At the Credit Ombudsman Office, what we have seen is a number of complaints from consumers that have exactly that issue. A number of matters where we've picked up on emolument attachment orders, where matters have been dealt with in respect to unfair interest charges, unfair initiation fees. So a number of varying issues that have been picked up by the Credit Ombudsman Office. But what this new Stellenbosch case is going to provide in terms of relief for consumers is far-reaching. With me having taken a look at the papers, what it has been noted is the fact that there's a number of orders that have been requested by the Stellenbosch Law Clinic, as well partnering with Summit Financial Partners. And one of the orders requested in terms of the papers was that legal fees be looked at further. Secondly, there was also a request in terms of the order request for attorney's costs to be looked at, in duplum to be considered. So there's a number of different orders that are being prayed for in terms of this notice. So the Credit Ombudsman Office, as well as I'm sure the economy at large, is really looking forward to seeing what these declaratory orders will come out with.
I want to talk about the most frequent complaints that you receive as the Ombud and your overall caseload at this point.
Look, at the Credit Ombudsman Office, the number of complaints that we generally deal with are in respect to complaints on credit, in respect to credit providers. We also deal with a number of complaints in respect to adverse credit information at the Credit Bureau, as well as insofar as emolument attachment orders. So there's a number of complaints, like I've mentioned, but it's far-reaching. And what we have picked up is that when consumers approach the Credit Ombudsman Office, they generally are not fully aware of what their rights are. So when a consumer comes through to our office, we will go through the initial complaint with the consumer. Initially, what happens is we would proceed to liaise with the credit provider, for the credit provider a number of days to respond to the allegations by the consumer. And at that point, remember, the purpose of the office is to deal with matters from an amicable perspective. So we try and reach a resolution. And with the case that's impending, should there be an order granted in favor of the prayers prayed for, it's going to assist with our investigations as well. Mm-hmm.
And how long a process is that? Because often when people are in debt and you've got debt collectors calling you, they want payment almost immediately, and to hear that you can now go to the Credit Ombudsman and not know how long it's going to take would add to the fear and frustration, I'd imagine, for a lot of people.
Absolutely. What happens is when a consumer approaches the Credit Ombudsman Office, obviously we're fully aware of the fact that they're highly irate. They're also very vulnerable because, like you've mentioned, debt collectors are hounding them. It is unfortunately the reality from the stories that we hear from consumers. It is unfortunately that case specifically. So we always assure consumers we may not necessarily find in their favor because the office has to look at matters from an impartial perspective, but we try and give them a response as soon as possible.
And are you finding, and you've mentioned this very briefly, about people not knowing enough about the work of your office, and do you find that these debt collectors, a lot of them are actually preying on the ignorance of people around issues such as the existence of your office, the National Credit Act, for instance?
Perhaps that is the case. With our office, there's a lot of work that goes into consumer awareness, consumer education. Our offices are out there in the far-reaching rural areas, within the urban areas. We collaborate a lot with the industry members to try and educate consumers, to try and educate staff within credit providers' offices themselves. So there's a lot of work going into consumer awareness, financial literacy for consumers, but absolutely that is being preyed upon. The fact that consumers are ignorant, and I use that word very, very loosely, because as much as consumers are seen as ignorant, there is awareness coming through for them these days. And that is when they do come through to the Credit Ombud office.
Our chat tonight also comes at a very interesting time. South Africans are under pressure. There's rising fuel costs, school fees, everything is going up. Have you then seen that reflected in the number of cases that you're receiving? Have you seen an increase?
Absolutely, there's an upsurge on complaints, and certainly the economy plays a large role in this, like you've mentioned now, with petrol price increases, with the recent VAT increase at the beginning of the year. It all adds up at the end of the day. And what we try and instill in consumers calling the office is, apart from dealing with the complaint at hand, we try and instill in them financial literacy. We're not financial advisors, but we can inform consumers. Look out towards your debt. Don't run away from debt collectors. If they are contacting you and you know that you're owing the monies, rather than hiding from the debt collector, approach them, try and negotiate. Credit providers are not all that bad out there. They are important for the economy to be lubricated at the end of the day.
Avitha, thank you so much for your time. That was Senior Legal Advisor at the Office of the Credit Ombudsman, Avitha Nofal.